Good morning and welcome to the Deception Watch program. I'm your host, Brian Delory, and I thank you all for tuning into the program this morning. And on today's program, I'm going to be discussing the subject of the truth about Jack Coe. Now, most of you probably know who Jack Coe is, but for those of you who don't, Jack Coe was a very well-known healing evangelist from back in the 40s and the 50s. And just like Oral Roberts, William Branham, you name it. I remember reading just recently that one time in the 40s, there were in 50s, there were somewhere around 48 evangelists who were traveling the country with tents and holding healing revivals. So there's so many of them, I can't name them all, but Oral Roberts, Jack Coe, William Branham, A.A. Allen, and many others are the ones I remember. They're the ones that stand out. So what does that tell you? It tells you that it was a business opportunity is what it was. That's the way I see it. You know, I don't believe that God uses healing evangelists all the time. And I don't even know if there's any such ministry as being a healing evangelist. Because it says in the book of James, I can't remember chapter and verse off the top of my head, but if is any sick among you, let him call for the elders of the church, and they will anoint him with oil, and the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And that verse of scripture leaves no doubt as to whom is responsible for the healing of that individual. And a lot of people get their eyes fixed on the evangelist rather than on God. The evangelist doesn't matter. He's just a conduit for the power of God. And I want everyone to understand that. So Jack Coe was one of these people and went around the same as all these other evangelists with the healing revivals. And I like to give positives about people whenever it's possible, because, people think I'm doing hit pieces on these evangelists, and I'm not. What I'm trying to do is expose them for what they are. Expose both the good and the bad. I notice sometimes I tend to focus more on the bad, but that's because I only have so many minutes to get in on a program, and if there's a lot of bad to deal with, well, that has to take precedence over the good. But I try to fit it all in. And in Jack's case, Jack was ex-military. Jack served in World War II. In fact, the story is that Jack was born, I believe, in Oklahoma, and when he was just a young child, his parents put him in an orphanage because they could no longer afford to take care of him. And he left the orphanage when he was 17 and began to drink and to gamble and live the typical worldly life without Christ. And then at some point he decided to go into the military. And it was in the military, the circumstances I don't know anything about, but at some point in the military, he got saved. And he was so dedicated and committed to Christ that he began to suffer persecution from all the other soldiers in his outfit. They said, this guy's a religious fanatic. And they sent him to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist put him in the I guess they call it the brig, whatever it was. He was held for a time while they were doing everything they could to determine his mental state. And when it was determined that he's not mentally ill, he's not a danger to himself or to anybody else, he was allowed back into normal routine of Army life. And he went about his business and got out of the Army. And also he already started preaching and holding healing services, I believe, when he was still in the Army. And then when he got out, that's what he went into. And Jack was the type of person that many people looked up to. Jack was very frank. Jack said what was on his mind. But Jack believed, and I have no doubt about this, and no doubt about his genuineness on this, that he really believed that God could heal anybody. Now, once again, we're told that many miracles occurred under his ministry. Whether or not they did, I don't know, because none of them have ever been verified. And just a little side note here, Jack once attended a healing service by William Branham. And by Jack's own testimony, there was a man in the service that was completely blind. And William Branham told him, God's going to start creating new eyeballs in your eyes. And so Jack said he was sitting outside the tent, and the guy came out, and he saw him leave, and he was still in the same condition. And then I think the story is that William Branham came out and told him, there's nothing wrong with you physically, you're just tired. I guess Jack had a physical problem. And so, according to Jack, the next day he saw this guy who was told that he would have new eyeballs. And he didn't have them yet. But somewhere around 7 o'clock that night, the guy had taken a nap, and when he woke up, he could see, according to Jack. Now, once again, no name is given, no photos were taken. We don't know who this guy is. Nobody, to the best of my knowledge, has ever come forward claiming to be that man. But this is the stuff that Jack said. And I keep repeating this over and over again, that if you're going to allege that these miracles occurred, if you're going to tell everybody, I saw this miracle and that miracle, you have to realize that what you're giving people is anecdotal testimony. You don't have any way to prove or verify that any of this is true. And so it makes you look bad. And I don't understand, if I'm in the healing ministry and cameras were available to me and recording devices were available to me, I would get this person on tape, recording audio tape, and take pictures and whatever, and show pictures to verify as much as I could that this person actually exists. Because for right now, all we have is Jack Coe's word for it. Okay, I got to move on for time constraints, and I don't have much time left. So Jack was in the healing ministry, and he was down here in Miami, Florida, and he called out a child, and the child had polio, and Jack called him out and told his parents, this child has been healed. And when the parents took the braces off, the child was in total pain. He hurt. And they rushed him to the doctor, and the doctor said, put those braces back on. He is not healed. And so the long and short of it is that they filed a police report, and Jack Coe was arrested for practicing medicine without a license. But when he went to trial, the judge dropped the case and said that divine healing does not fall under the law regarding this. So he was let go, and approximately 4 months later, somewhere in Texas, he started feeling ill. He was taken to the hospital, and he was diagnosed with polio, and he died like 3 or 4 weeks later at the age of 38 years. Okay, now I see the judgment of God in that. Maybe you don't, but I do. And Jack Coe was the type of person, he didn't take anything off of anyone. And during the entire time he was in the healing ministry, he was ordained Assemblies of God. So that denomination was giving him and other healing evangelists a hard time because they lived in big houses. So what Jack Coe did was turn around and take pictures of these leaders in the Assembly of God denomination, and they had houses much bigger than Jack Coe's or these other healing evangelists. And he posted the pictures of them, and he had a magazine called The Healing Herald or something of that nature. And he posted those pictures in there and showed that these people were hypocrites. And I commend him for that. But yes, he was accused of using funds. Not all. Let me make this clear. Maybe I misspoke about it. He was definitely accused by the Assemblies of God denomination of living a lavish lifestyle. I think it was someone else I was going to say that they were accused of using ministry funds to put a down payment on a house. That was actually W.V. Grant who did that. So it wasn't Jack Coe. Anyway, that's what happened to Jack Coe. And my thoughts on Jack Coe is that perhaps Jack started out true. I mean, I don't think this man wasn't saved. I don't think he was trying to, I don't know how to put it, because I do believe that there's a lot that goes on in these, especially in those days, in those healing revivals, that is not true. If you ever watch Jack Coe's healing revival and compare it to A.A. Allen's healing revivals, let's say, they're both doing the same thing, the same tricks, the same everything. Like the A.A. Allen would call people up and say he's casting the devil out of them, and the person would come up and writhe and wiggle around, and they would drool this like white saliva out of their mouth. And the same thing happened in Jack Coe's meeting, and they always brought him up and stood him before the people and did this. I consider that false. And we know, I just mentioned W.V. Grant. I'm going to do an expose on him pretty soon. He's been into a lot of things that were wrong, and he was known for having people come and pay people for coming into his service and pretend they were sick, and then he would, call them by name because he knew their name beforehand, and then raise them, pull them up out of the wheelchair and say, "Now look, this is God healing these people." I don't doubt that a lot of that went on in many of these healing evangelists' ministries, Jack Coe included, and I believe that's why when he did this to this little boy, for whatever reason, God brought it back upon him. So to say that he wasn't saved, I won't say that, but to say he was misleading people, probably so. There's not a lot that I can prove about Jack Coe. But I can prove that what happened with that little boy, that's a matter of public record. And that was a terrible thing. And to declare him healed when he wasn't, that was really a terrible thing to do. Okay, I have to go. I hope you got something out of this message today. The website for the program is DeceptionWatchMinistriesInternational.com. You can go there and avail yourself of the information uploaded on that site, and I think you'll find it to be a blessing. Have a good day. Keep the faith and defend the truth. Have a good day, everybody.